Welcome to today's SeafoodNews.com video, sponsored by the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute.
Good morning. It's Wednesday, January 3rd. I want to talk about how the U.S. Domestic shrimp industry has squandered $100 million today. Over the last few years, this industry has gotten $111 million in payments from the government through the Byrd money program, based on duties on imported shrimp. But today, they're back with a new countervailing duty suit seeking more money, both in terms of higher tariffs and in terms of direct payments from the countries involved. This is a travesty. In reading through their filing, one of the things that jumps out at me is the inconsistency in their financial reporting. For example, they talk about for the last 3 years, the average profitability of the domestic shrimp industry, gross profitability, has been around $35 million a year. What this is saying is that their $111 million in payouts through the Byrd program has been more than the entire profits of the entire industry for the past 3 years. In their filing, they make the argument that the competition for imported shrimp in 2012 undercut their prices, and as a result they went from being profitable to being at a loss. But when you look at the actual numbers, they have a sales and administrative expense of around $25 million through the third quarter of 2011. And in the third quarter of 2012, this expense has jumped $10 million. In other words, their sales and administrative expense are equal to the entire profitability on their average of the past few years. How is a $10 million increase in one year justified? Well, there are rumors going around that the cost of this lawsuit is causing the approximately 30 companies involved to pay in $200,000 to $300,000 each. Now, 30 companies times $300,000 is $9 million. Why is it that the increase in administrative expenses so closely matches the additional cost that might be coming to the companies to file this lawsuit? There's a travesty here. Let's look at a different way of approaching this. The U.S. industry has a real opportunity to market domestic shrimp. Domestic shrimp could be a high-value premium item. If the domestic industry had taken a fraction of that $111 million and put it into marketing their product, they would have an ASME-level approach of what happened with ASME and farmed salmon. When farmed salmon imports crashed the Alaskan salmon market in the 1990s, the Alaskan salmon people did not go running to Washington for a handout. Instead, they began building up the value of their product, and they did that by spending money on marketing their brand. And the net result is today, despite the record levels of farmed salmon, the Alaska salmon industry is healthy and selling product at better prices than ever. In fact, canned salmon prices are at record levels this month. So here's an example. Why doesn't the Gulf industry take a page from this playbook and take some of the money they've gotten from the government in the past and use it to enhance the value of their product, rather than use it to pay $10 million to lawyers to go back and either try to get something through the Department of Commerce or try to force a settlement from the various countries as a form of extortion. One key to the intentions here is whether other people are allowed to join in this lawsuit or not. In the 2004 lawsuit, the Department of Commerce determined that fresh domestic shrimp was part of the product mix that had to be considered. In this suit that's being put forward by the petitioners, they specifically acknowledge that injury does happen to fresh domestic shrimp from the same types of things they're alleging on these exporting countries, but they don't want to include fresh domestic shrimp in their petition. And the reason clearly is that they don't want to expand the pool of people that would have to be considered if there was any settlement or any kind of benefit. And for that reason, it raises a suspicion, and it certainly angered some of the domestic shrimp processors, and it means it's an open question as to whether this whole process is going to go forward or not. especially if they try to limit who might benefit in the end. Anyway, this thing is an unnecessary, unwelcome, unhappy beginning for 2013, and we hope that the Department of Commerce will put this to bed with a negative finding as soon as possible. In Lexington, Mass., this is John Sackton.
Today's SeafoodNews.com video was brought to you by the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute. Alaska has been protecting wild and sustainable seafood for generations and adheres to the most recognized and internationally accepted set of guidelines written by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. For recipes and additional information, visit wildalaskaflavor.com.